Hi everybody, I'm Dan Strang and I'm here to talk to you about attraction photography and 6 trends that we think are going to change the whole of attraction photography forever, and it's all around 2020. So firstly, I'm going to give you a little introduction to myself. So my name's Dan Strang. Over the last 8 years I've been building technology companies. The first one that we built was a business called EventsTag, and that created experiential technology, so things like photo experiences, things like games, all for the events world. But over the last year, we've looked at the attractions industry and we've noticed a load of these changes, lots of things that we're going to talk to you about today. And we want to really disrupt it. And we want to show that technology can be applied to attractions and can be applied to photography in particular. But the first thing I'm going to do is talk to you through a little bit of history around attraction photography and where it came to be, how it is now and how we see it today. The first attraction photo that we can really find is in 1910, and around this time what people were doing, really trying to photograph the actual whole ride. And it's because rides were really novel, but cameras were also really slow and they were quite bulky, so you couldn't take a camera onto a ride. You had to set them up for hours and hours beforehand. They're really bulky pieces of kit and they could take a photo of the whole ride. But actually, we saw quite quickly, 1913, this is the first photo that we could really find where we could see people focusing on the expressions of people's faces. But this wasn't normal. This was only because it was Prince George and Princess Mary, and it was the opening of the Earl's Court exhibition in London. But this isn't too dissimilar, and we'll go through how it's not too dissimilar to what we see today in a photographer looking and taking expressions of people as they're on the ride. But actually, when we first saw the sale of ride photography, it was around the 1960s. And actually, interesting, what they had to do is they had to pre-purchase the photo, and you would then go onto the log flume or to the ride, and you'd hold a flag, or they'd stick a flag into your carriage, and then the photographer would know that that person has bought the photo, and that's because they didn't want to spend additional money on film. They'd take the photo of you on that ride. It would then be available later on for you to give to you. You'd already kind of pre-purchased it. And this is something that we found that says that this was the oldest flume picture in 1972. We're not totally sure. It's pretty hard to get the exact dates of when the first one or what it was, but as you see, pretty similar to what we see now. People's faces, expressions on the flume. But in the 1980s, this is when we started to see kind of the real scaling up of ride photography, and log flumes being the big one. The cameras were automated, and actually they would be able to take photos based on sensors as the carriage would go past, as it is at the moment. And things like borders and logos and stuff were being added to the photos, and this was making them more unique and more different to what people would have seen in the past. You get to 1998, nearly 20 years afterwards, and actually the photo, there was some good technical improvements in kind of being able to capture photos at all different light ranges. So this is during the day, but the cameras were a bit more advanced. They wouldn't run out. Back in the 1980s, you'd have cameras that maybe would only last for a few weeks because they were capturing photos at a really regular basis. So some technology has improved, but the style, the quality, and the output is really just a photo with a logo on the end of it. And that was a 20-year advance. And then another 20 years later, and this is where technology has been advancing massively across the world. Another 20 years later, in 2018, and what do we see? But we see a photo that looks nearly identical to the one that was 20 years later. A few logos, a little bit of kind of graphics added to the photo, but the same sort of image. So we then look at these 100-year differences. 1913, taking photos at Earl's Court, to 2020 at Chessington World of Adventures. And although there have been some technical changes and advancements in actually how the photography has been taken, the output of what the visitor sees is very similar. And actually, I think if you go and talk to some Gen Z or millennials, maybe you can go for the 1913 one. It's nice, it's clean, It's easy for them to edit and to change and to add things to. So what we're really trying to say is that throughout history, the last 100 years, there have been some small advancements in how technology and how content has been captured. But attraction photography, in terms of the output, what the user gets, has not changed enough. And we think that this year and 2020, and we think that there's so many things that are being happening in the world outside of attractions in technology that is going to change the face of what we see in the future for attraction photography. So I'm going to take you through these 6 different trends, these 6 different things, and there's probably 10, 15, 20 different things that are actually all impacting on why this is coming to a head. But I'm going to give you 6 of them that we think are the most important and that actually are coming to a pinnacle this year and are going to change it. So the first one that we want to look at is self-service expectations. So this is the expectation that visitors have across the world, not just in attractions, in every single area, that they can manage and control their journey through self-service. And the first thing we're going to do is just look at a case study of how this has worked in other industries outside of the attractions world. And you look at McDonald's. McDonald's is one of the obvious self-service institutes now, with their technology that allows you to order before you get up to the counter, and it's had a huge success for McDonald's. So it's made fast food even faster. It's shortened that user journey, which was key to them, shortened that user journey by 15%. But something that happened that they didn't necessarily realise at the start, and this is when they started implementing these over the last kind of 5 to 10 years, I think they didn't necessarily realise is that actually what the self-service technology is doing is increasing the average transaction value. It's up 5 to 6%, and there's reasons for that, because people are able to customize much more than they would used to, because before they didn't have the ability for people to ask what they wanted, and maybe somebody wanted to have something really weird. Well, they can put this into this touchscreen. There's no questions, no conversations around it. They can add and choose whatever they want, and actually there's no judgment on the choices. So before, people thought that actually, well, salespeople can then push people into the choice that they want, but actually salespeople, like humans, are not emotionally intelligent enough to actually know exactly what the person is thinking, what the person is wanting. But actually a computer can do that, because it can think about your past choices and loads of other information that a human might not have. And then it doesn't judge you. So it can say, okay, well, we know that you like to have a really large Coke with your drink. Maybe you don't like to have a big meal, but you like to have a really big drink with it. Now, that a person might feel uncomfortable going to another person and say, look, I just want to have a really big drink. They might feel uncomfortable with that, but they're fine talking to a computer. They've got the full overview of the menu. Again, a human doesn't know exactly what you're looking for and what you want. They can't read it to you and can't keep telling you everything, but a computer can. And they've got transparency on all of the orders. Very difficult before. So this is a huge part of their business now, and they're implementing self-service technology into all of their stores by the end of 2020, because it's a much better experience for the user. And it's had a massive impact on their operating margins. You can see that actually McDonald's, you think of them as a stagnant business, or as a business that, okay, it's not massively growing, health food is going to take over. Where are McDonald's going to be in the next 10 years? Well, McDonald's have advanced because they've put in technology that's made their operating costs better. They've seen a huge increase since 2015, and they've continued to be able to maintain their relationship with the young people and kind of the market as it's advanced, because of their adoption of technology. And then we look at the food industry as a whole. So it's not just McDonald's, but actually the food industry is looking at technology, and it's looking at how they can increase spending through self-service or through other ways of technology. So McDonald's looked at the self-service that they've got in their stores and spent £300 million buying a tech business that's going to help their drive-thrus. It's actually going to identify people's number plate recognition, so that when they go into the drive-thru, they don't actually ever have to pay, or they have to enter their credit card. Their credit card details are stored to their number plate. They drive in, they make their order, they drive out, and it's already charged to them. Starbucks are investing £100 million into a food and retail fund. So they're just trying to look across the board of technology, and they're saying we want to back startups that are going to help us improve our visitor experience, improve our operating margins by focusing on technology. And Yum Brands, which owns things like Pizza Hut, put £200 million into Grubhub last year, and that's because they again want to focus on technology. They bought Quick Order, which is digital ordering. So you think about all of these huge big names. They don't want to stay still. They want to look at technology, and they want to advance. And self-service is at the forefront of that, and that's where attraction photography has to move over the coming years. So the second thing that we want to look at, which is going to change, is the use of video. So we'll all have seen it. We've all started to do it. We've all been doing it over the last 5 or 10 years. We're watching videos more and more. Here's a few kind of key stats. So video makes up 82% of all of consumer interaction. This is an amazing stat. 82% of the times that consumers are going on the internet, they're watching a video. YouTube is the second most popular website after Google. It's 1 billion hours of video each day is being watched on YouTube. And then you look at social media, you look at what people are watching and looking at. Social video is 1,200% more likely to gain a share than text and image and content combined. We all know this because we're all on social media, we're on the internet, and we know how this works. But why is this not moving into the mainstream? Not moving into attraction photography? We're still looking at predominantly printed pieces of static photos. So video is exactly what people want. 82% of the time they're going on the internet, they're wanting to watch a video. So we're just going to have a quick look at TikTok, because there's fun videos, but also because it's a really good example of how rapidly video is expanding and how important video is going to be for us in the sort of social sharing, attraction photography sort of space. So if you don't know about TikTok, here's just a few examples of Jimmy Kimmel trying to impersonate some TikTok dancers. Generally, TikTok is a video platform, and the reason why it's got loads of popularity. But what really happens is that people create trends, which could be a dance, predominantly a lot of the time, and then people try to copy that dance. It's a video editing platform. It's really simple to use. You watch loads of people that may or may not be your friends creating this dance, and then as Jimmy Kimmel on the left-hand side tries to recreate them, that is what people are doing, and that's what's making TikTok become the fastest growing platform that social media has ever seen. So TikTok is growing quicker than anything that we've seen. It's quicker than YouTube and Instagram, Facebook and Snapchat grew. It's going to be the biggest kind of powerhouse in social media. If not, it already is there. So it's nearly doubled its downloads from Q1 2019 to Q2 2020. So Q2 2019 to Q2 2020, there's 300 million downloads in Q2 2020, and then you look at that compared to where the other guys are. So Snapchat is sort of less than 100 million, and then you've got YouTube's in around the same number, and Instagram and Facebook nowhere near the amount of downloads that TikTok is getting at the moment. But why is this the case? So why are people moving from the traditional Instagram, Facebook, and spending their time and downloading TikTok? Well, we think there's sort of 4 kind of key reasons around it. So the first is that it is video only. Everything on TikTok is animated, and people are bored of text. We can see that from the other stats that we looked at. They're bored of seeing text content. They're bored of seeing photo content. They need it to be animated in order for them to be engaged with it and for them to look at it. And TikTok just has no distraction of anything that's going to be sort of text based or going to be kind of photo based. What they've done is they've given the tools back to the user. They've given them the tools to be able to edit and customize their videos and to create something that's really, really interesting. And they've given that powerful technology into the mobile hands, into the hands of their users. And that leads into the third point, is that it's creator-led. It's really all about seeing what other people can do with the technology that's available to themselves, with the kind of influence of some of the trends in the dancing and things that's around. And the final thing, which has made it really, really successful, is that it's so simple. It's so simple to create. You can create very, very customized, very cool videos, and it's really, really easy to consume. So it's really, really easy for you to flick through a TikTok feed, get lost in it, and see constant videos. That's that engaging point for you. So TikTok's an amazing platform, and I think there's loads that you can learn from for attraction photography in and around how this can be done. And let's just think about what you could do in attractions. You've got these amazing spaces, you've got these amazing kind of physical environments, and what if you were able to give people the tools to be able to create these amazing videos and put the hands back in, put the content kind of back into the hands of the users, and be able to let them create something. And that might be that there's 5 or 6 different stations in and around your attraction, and at each different station you get given something to try and copy or something to try and kind of create, and you can stand there, and there could be a camera that's taking it in a really high resolution for you, but it gets sent to your phone, and you can edit it, and you can put it together into a really nice kind of end piece of content. Now that's really great value to people, because they want to have something that they can share on TikTok, and they want to have something that shows them about the memory that they've had at the attraction. I don't think that there's probably ever been an attraction photography shared on TikTok. And if you look at all of those the millions and millions of users that they have worldwide, not one piece of attraction photography has been shared on there. I don't know that for a fact, but I've got to guess that traditional attraction photography is not being shared on TikTok. Can't we create something that is TikTok friendly, that is going to be led from these guys? And I think there is definitely a way of being able to do that. So the third point is around personalization. Again, we are seeing personalization across the rest of the market. We're seeing so much of it, and sometimes you don't know it, and sometimes you do know it, and sometimes there's different levels of personalization. But what people are expecting now is not that you're getting a generic message, you're not getting a generic experience, you're not walking into a store and getting exactly the same experience as somebody else. And I think that when you're looking at attraction photography in particular, there's a real opportunity here that we can know more about our visitors, and we can edit and create much better content, much better experiences for people by understanding a little bit more about them as they kind of go through some of the journey. So if we look at online shopping, it's just some examples of where personalization is there. So these are some great examples. This is Very. The first thing that they do, they know, one, that it's cold. They can look at the weather. Everybody knows, there's kind of weather APIs that can tell you exactly what the weather is going to be that day or what it's going to be the next day. So they knew that the weather is going to be cold where the person that's looking on this website is, and they know that person's name. So when you go onto that page, it says, Nikki, wrap up out there, it's cold. Wrap up, it's cold out there. Great personalized information and messaging that's getting sent there. And then this other example is that somebody's been onto the website a couple of days before. They've been looking at these boots. They know that they've spent a bit of time looking at those boots. They go back onto the website. They know their name. Jack, were these the boots that you wanted? Well, they already knew that. They are the boots that he's been spending a lot of time looking at. They're 30% off today. Really great personalized messages that you can get on kind of online shopping and environments. But then we look at experience as well. And it's not just about shopping. So Netflix is highly personalized. That's why you have different profiles, and you go onto Netflix at the start and you set your own profiles. The only reason they do that is so that they can then personalize the content for you when you go into that profile. But if you look at your Netflix and you look at your mum's Netflix, it's going to be very different, and it's going to give you stuff that they think you're going to like based on what you've watched previously, how long you spend on Netflix, and all of that kind of different data that they have on you. And it's exactly the same with all of the different social networks. And I would advise, if you haven't already, to watch the Social Dilemma, which is on Netflix. It is an incredibly good program which gives you all of the different information about how people use your data and understand your data, and give you that and sell your data onto advertising, and gives you some horror stories about what social media networks are doing. But it is really interesting to show that actually that personalized experience is at the forefront of all of technology, of all of these big kind of tech giants strategies, and it's really and it's a really important technique that should be used in attraction photography as well. Then you look at adverts. So as the obvious one, I'm really into my running. My Instagram feed is completely filled of running adverts because they know that I'm into running. They've seen what I've been looking at on Instagram, and I get given that, and I like that. Because I'd much rather see running adverts than I would like to see film adverts, because I'm not really interested in film. And then you can look at other places where, okay, well, in a physical environment, we've got people driving down a road, and we don't know what they're into. There could be loads of different people there. We can't give them personalized adverts. Well, Spotify said, okay, well, we can't give them personalized adverts, but actually what we can do is we can use data that we have in Spotify to create our adverts that are much, much more interesting than the other ones. So here they've got the person in Venice who listened to Adele for 4 hours straight on Valentine's Day. Are you okay? That's a great advert. It uses data. It knows that people who are on Spotify are interested to know what other people are listening in, and it gives them that information on an advert. And then you've got in venue. So here's some examples of what's happened in venue. So this is O2. This is their 10th anniversary, and what they did was, as people kind of walked in, they knew data from their tickets, who they were, and they thanked them for coming and watching that gig. They put their name, they called it Your Name in Lights. They put it up onto a big screen as you walked into the O2. You saw your name on a big screen, and this got loads and loads of shares on social media. People were really, really excited to see that they could walk into the O2 and see their name appearing onto the big screen. And then we all know about Disney's Magic Band and the power that that's given Disney to know about their visitors. And we all know that it was a data proposition, and that actually what was happening is that they're able to personalize what's going on in Disney in a much better way. And a very simple example is that when you go to a restaurant, they know before you're walking into that restaurant who your name is, so they can personalize and open by saying, "Hi Dan, welcome to the restaurant tonight. We've got your table booked for you. It's in the corner," before you've even walked into the restaurant and said who you are. And that personalized experience gives people a much, much better satisfaction, and that's something that can easily be added. So we're looking at how can it affect photography. So there's a few things. So you can target people much better if we know who people are as they're kind of walking in. If they go to a kiosk, a self-service kiosk, and we talked about before, if they go to a self-service kiosk and we know that they're a Gen Z audience, we can give them TikTok style videos that they can purchase directly and put onto their mobile phone. But if we know that they walk up and they're they're in their 60s and they've been buying physical prints for the last kind of 20 years, and they've got a big board, a pin board of them stored up at home, and they want to have a physical print, then we can give them physical prints in front of them. And I think that targeting is really, really important. We can get much better new products, so we can put people's names on things. We can know who they are and add their family photos, and we can create videos of their whole day based on who they are and what they've been, because what kind of activities they've done during that day, because of the personalization that we've added in. That could be done through a wristband, it could be done through QR, and then much, much better conversion, because we can do things like the Disney personalization. We can be sending them messages as they're kind of going through the park, because we know that they really like to create videos when they're on each one of the rides, or we can then target them to say, have you used our editing software to be able to put that together? So much, much better conversion. So very quickly, I'm going to show you a little video of something that we put into Chessington World of Adventures, which is a personalized video experience. It takes a couple of the different things that we've talked about already, and creates an animated movie, which has got the viewer's favorite characters in there. It's got their names in there, and it's a really, really great experience that's achieving over 60% conversion rate from visitors into purchase. So I'll show you that video now.
In terms of being an attraction that people want to see, absolutely, because Because it's an experience within itself. Not many people have actually completed a green screen experience, so it's a first time for many people. And not only that, some of our managing directors from other attractions have seen this and also want one. That personalisation and unique product is what's driving the consumer demand now. Something that they have instantly and can share it and post it on all of their social feeds, definitely. In terms of working with WeAreInteract, definitely recommend working with them. So that, you know, nothing's ever too much for a problem. They'll find a solution for everything. Something personalised is so much more important to people, so we'll definitely see this evolving in the future. When the kids see their video, it's amazing. They're beaming, they think that they're movie stars, but I think what's even better is the parents, because the parents just absolutely love it as well, because they turn into big kids themselves, and if they're not in it, they want to be in it.
It is excellent. It's definitely worth every penny. Definitely.
Interact are fast-paced, very technically experienced, and a great team to work with.
So the fourth thing that we're looking at is gamification. So this is been a massive trend in apps, not just games. So obviously there's been a huge trend in kind of resurgence of games. People have going back on things like Fortnite and Minecraft, which have been taking up huge amounts of people's times. But actually, what I'm looking at is how traditional kind of applications have actually been using gamification to inspire usage, inspire kind of visitor engagement and experience. And I think this is something that could have a huge effect on attraction photography going forward. So two good, really good, clear examples are Duolingo and Strava. And if you don't know both of these apps, so Strava is a GPS tracking app essentially, in that it tracks your distance and speed when you're doing things like running and cycling, and it shows you kind of all of your different kind of speeds throughout that activity that you've just done. But what it does is it's gamified those sports. So if you go for a run now, what it does is it shows you how quick you are on that particular segment, on that particular piece of road, compared to every single other person that's ever done that in before. So it can say, okay, well, on this segment, you are 10th out of 10,000 people that have ever gone and run it. And then you're gamified, incentivized to use Strava again to go back and chase on that same road. They do things like badges. So each month, how many kilometers can you run? And can you win a prize by running more kilometers this month than you did last month? And it gamifies every single element of that fitness side. And then the other one to look at is Duolingo, where you are incentivized to learn a new language. So learning a new language is something that people do at school, and maybe you're not incentivized to go and do afterwards. Well, here they give you a daily task that you can go and play a sort of a little game which kind of gives you which teaches you how to learn that language. But they've got things like streaks. I got up to a 250-day streak, and I was obsessed with kind of doing it every single day. And then you get badges if you do it for half an hour on a day, you get another badge. Or if you kind of read and learn another word, then you get another badge. And you're playing this as if it's a game, but you're actually learning a language. So they've taken learning a language and turned it into a game for you. And I think that consumers are now really expecting games in all forms of life, and it is really important that attraction photography thinks about this and uses it as part of the photography experience. If we look at the apps that are downloaded, around 25% of iOS or Apple apps downloaded are games. People want to be playing games. 1.6 billion people in 2019 were active mobile gamers. But actually, we can look at outside of technology. Is our mindset changing that we want to play games? We'll look at the growth of escape rooms. It's grown massively. It's this gaming environment that people want to have in their lives. And actually, if you look at board games are back up on the rise. You look at from 2010 or up to 2015, these are the new board games being funded by Kickstarter, but new board games that are coming into existence is growing absolutely rapidly over the last kind of 5 or 10 years. And people want to and need to have this inside their inside all walks of life. And if attraction photography can pick up on this trend and can add it in, then actually you can make attraction photography much more desirable and much more modernized than it is now. And just another very quick example of how we've done this. We've just launched this in Chester Zoo, and the idea here is that actually people are incentivized to go around the zoo and collect different badges, and they're learning about all of the different things that you can do in the zoo, and they're learning through photography. So the first thing that you can go to do is learn how to count bats, because that's an important zookeeper task. They have to go and count the bats. And you can do that through our photo experiences. You can tap and count how many bats there are. It's a part of the game. And then you can have your photo taken, which turns you upside down and looks like you're hanging around with bats. And then you get a badge. And you get the I've counted the bats badge. And then you go around and you do something with the lions and the giraffes, and you start to collect all of the badges. And this becomes really good for members. It becomes really good for families that are looking for an extra bit of things to do when they're in the zoo. I'll give you a quick video of how this example works. Okay, so moving on to number 5, augmented reality. So augmented reality is a huge growing market. You can see the trends from 2013 to 15, only a very small revenue, well, relatively small, but $3 billion, and it's going up, and we're expecting to see next year is $133 billion in that market. So how is AR being used at the moment? So at the moment, AR can be used in a few different ways. Here's some examples that you probably will have seen. So this is using floor as a marker, so it's got like a markerless AR, augmented reality experience is how you'd call it. It senses where the floor is, and you can hold your camera up. Through your camera and through your phone, you'd be looking at a floor. It knows where the floor is, and it's going to put a digital car on there. So what really happens is that you can be looking at a real environment, and you're adding digital into it through the lens of your own phone. Where you've probably seen it the most is in what we call sort of face filters, and this is stuff that's happening on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, and every single social media platform. And what it does is through your camera, it recognizes your face, but it digitally adds on something else, and that could be that it's a wig, it could be that it's a face mask, it could be a hat, or it could be some of these experiences up here, which are things like things that are kind of looking at your face, and then they roll through a number of different options, and then they decide which option is used. So it could be what's your Disney attraction, your favorite attraction, which is one over here, and it's Dumbo the flying elephant. But actually, it's also being used in other different environments. So healthcare people are using augmented reality to really explain stuff to patients, highlight areas of work on kind of surgery, and show that to patients. Military are using it so that they can identify some of the risks, and they can see that through glasses when they're kind of in the military. So some really advanced uses of AR. But why is it coming in now, and why is it going to be the future to attractions, and why does attraction photography need to jump in? Well, what we're about to see is the growth in augmented reality glasses. So Microsoft HoloLens has been around for a while, but it's only in its kind of third generation. But it's selling units at $3,500 pounds a pop, and they've already sold 50,000 of their new unit. So this is a huge growth area. And what augmented reality glasses will allow you to do is allow you to walk around an attraction space and be able to see things in real life, but also see digital advancements. And then all of the stuff that we've talked about, the personalization and customization and video, can all be added into your experience seamlessly. But actually, what I think is going to make the difference is that there are cooler, new, trendier wearables which are going to make augmented reality phenomenally accessible to everybody. And that could mean going on rides and being able to see dragons appear in front of you as you go onto the ride, and personalize that ride to be completely different to other people. But that also means that when you're capturing photography, it could be something that is entirely different for you than it is to somebody else. It can make each time you go onto an attraction, ride, or experience, or even walking around the park, very, very different. So we think that augmented reality and augmented reality glasses are going to make the difference in the coming years. So my final point that's going to mean that attraction photography is going to change forever after this year is COVID. And everything that we've talked about is stuff that's been happening over the last kind of few years. But we think that COVID is actually going to accelerate all of that stuff. It's going to accelerate. It's going to make it much more accessible to people, and it's going to mean that actually all of these trends are going to be rapidly thrown into the world. And some of the things that's really going to affect it is, well, two major things. One is social distancing. So the fact that we're going to have to be social distance for another 6-12 months, and we're going to be careful. We're not going to be touching each other and hugging each other in photos and photography, means that all of this technology that we've talked about is going to be really, really important. Well, if we can augment and have your family and friends standing next to you without them actually having to stand next to you or seem like there's a big crowd, we can solve all of these problems that are happening before. If we can remove masks from people's faces, we can put masks on them because we're using technology to be able to do that, then that's going to change the way that photography is used in attractions, make it much more accessible, and force us to use some of the technology that exists out in the market. And the digital understanding from consumers has already rapidly grown. My parents know what a QR code is, and they didn't know that before, and they can scan it on their phone, and they can access apps and websites and are looking at things, and because they've been forced into having to do that for a lot of the case. So actually, there is a greater consumer understanding for the need for digital and how it can be beneficial. And I think that is going to really help attraction photography and really help the rise of some of the things that we've talked about. So I wanted to keep this quite short, and I'm going to jump into a bit of a quick summary at the end. Hopefully it's been useful. So we may not become TikTok. TikTok is growing absolutely rapidly, and that video is very targeted. The kind of app that they've got is very targeted. They've found a new technology, they've jumped in, they've focused themselves on that new technology. That's not going to happen for us because the attraction world has got this great experience of going to see these physical places and spaces and animals and attractions and rides and things. So that's not going to happen. But we can take all of the great stuff that TikTok have invented and and Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook invented, and we can apply it to what we've already got, which is our amazing spaces and experience of people in a physical environment. We can take all of that and we can put it together. But what we don't want to do is we can't become Blockbuster. You can't let attraction photography say that this has been happening for the last 100 years and people are still buying it, so we're going to keep going, which is what Blockbuster said. And you saw that Netflix completely overtake them. You can't let something come in and completely overtake the experiences happening. We can't let people using their own mobile phones come in and take what's happening in attraction. We need to make what attraction photography much better than what it is at the moment, and we can win that market of people wanting to have content from the attraction experience that they have. We've got to embrace the change. We've got to be really proactive about what's happening in the market. Want our attractions, want our experiences to be at the forefront of that new technology. Very quick example that you can read up on afterwards. Be like National Geographic. So 1999 to 2009, they saw a huge revenue drop. They saw that their traditional experiences of magazines were they're still being bought. Magazines were still being bought, but not as many of them were being bought as they were in 1999. They thought, observers thought that their audience is really old and they're not tech savvy. This business is going to die. This business isn't going to have those subscribers to their magazines. What's going to happen to them in the 2010s, the teens? What's going to happen to that business because they're too old? Well, they went, we're going to embrace technology. We're going to embrace that change. We're going to go onto the social media networks. We're going to find that following. We're going to find that audience. 2018, they were the first brand to get 100 million Instagram followers. They completely changed their business model. They're generating new streams from content production. They sold and they made a partnership with NBC, and they completely changed their business. They're the most popular brand on social media. If you looked in 1999 and you said, okay, National Geographic, they're not the social media audience. They completely changed that mindset. And I think that there's this mindset sometimes in attractions that, okay, well, that's not really our audience. That TikTok audience is not really ours. Make it. We can make it. We can make it happen. It's not been easy. National Geographic has had tough challenges. They still have claims of how they're going to make revenue on different things. They've managed to change their business into being that future focused, future technology focused business. And I think that without that, there's a risk of being blockbuster. And with that, there's an opportunity to see the growth that TikTok has. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully that those 6 changes have been really, really rapid and hopefully it's been informative and been interesting. I'm around for any questions, or you can contact me at any point on any of those details. Thank you very much.